Ja, herzlich willkommen zur neuen Ausgabe vom SI-Talk und ich habe heute Jim McKenzie von Ucore da. Ucore habe ich letztes Jahr schon besprochen und ich muss auch dazu sagen, ich habe einen Conflict of Interest, war ja auch einer meiner Top-Empfehlungen letztes Jahr. Wir sind auch vorne, ist nicht so schlecht, es ist in diesem Umfeld schon ganz gut, wenn man schon mit einem sehr positiven, ich glaube 40-50% plus startet. Jim, thank you for time, and I say to my subscriber that I have a conflict of interest. I'm a shareholder too.
Okay.
So on your
That's
side,
a good conflict as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
and I'm really happy with them. You're one of my favorites last year, and you're doing very well.
Yeah.
So it's a good start. It's not hopefully the end. So it's only the beginning.
It is only the beginning. Yeah.
So but for all guys, they are not so known the story. Please, can you say in 30 seconds what you are doing?
Okay.
Only then we're going deeper with the question.
Okay, in a nutshell, Ucore is a development phase company. We are morphing from a resource development company into a high-tech company, which is where I cut my teeth early in my career, is high-tech, so I'm sort of coming home to roost. But effectively what we have is a technology that we think is a revolutionary technology for the processing of and separation of specialty metals, and not just rare earths. So rare earths is our focus right now, so we've separated out the entire suite of rare earths, the lanthanide suite, all 15 of them, at very high purity. Last year at this time we announced that we had separated them out at bench scale, a laboratory scale. We telegraphed for the last year that we would deliver a pilot plant for around this time this year, and we've done that. We have a long history of delivering our promises, and we've done it yet again.
I think this is also the why your share price is now higher.
Oh,
a
absolutely.
lot of people promise a lot of things and not deliver.
Yeah, I think there's a history of evasiveness, I think, with a lot of juniors where they don't really telegraph anything for fear that they won't perform. I think that Ucore is unique in that regard. They're forward-looking statements when we telegraph these things, but I think at the end of the day we have credibility because we do deliver on what we say we set out to do, and that's been many years in a row that we've been doing that. This year we're telegraphing that we want to get into production over the next 12 months in some degree. So we've proven up, again, the technology at bench scale. We have our pilot plant built. We'll be running our pilot plant in the next 60 days to prove it up at pilot scale. We're very confident that's going to work. And then in the 12 ensuing months after that, between now and next PDAC, we want to get into production. So we're going to become a revenue-bearing enterprise.
You study and you have a very good project also in Alaska. Is your definition now more as a tech company or more a resource company?
They're not mutually exclusive. In other words, you can be both at the same time. A resource company ultimately needs to draw upon technology. Something that I said earlier to Mike is that we're more resource agnostic now. In other words, we can shop the globe for the best resources in the rare earth space and draw upon them. WKN is absolutely one of those resources. We're very blessed to have 100% ownership of that resource. But it goes beyond that because now we can avail ourselves of resources in Australia and in Africa, in South America and beyond, and certainly North America and beyond.
But as a company, as a small company, I must say, which is the strategy to go to all these projects? It's not possible that you do it by your own, so you need some partner, or how is the strategy to
we can go it alone, and that is our strategy. The technology is very affordable. Our pilot plant, we published photos of that the other day. That is a very small footprint. It's millions of dollars to assemble that, but the cost of a full-size facility is not a great leap beyond that. So our ambition is to have a centralized facility that's sort of a centralized dairy type format where you have a number of farms that are producing dairy products and they're shipping to the centralized facility. I think we are looking to do that. The location could be Southeast Alaska, it could be Utah, it could be Houston, it could be Arizona or New Mexico. Not to draw too ambitious of an analog, but you see what Tesla has done with their super factory. They shopped a number of different locations and they played one off against the other to see who would offer the best incentives. And we're not unaware of that strategy, and we think it's a good one. one. So we're looking at prospective locations for our super factory, our super site, to service the globe. Having said that, Joe, we do have the ability to produce satellite locations as well. So if you have a source of feedstock that is very prolific, that is remote, chances are we would put a circuit next to that feedstock, wherever it might be it in Russia, or be it in Africa, be it in Asia Pacific, or wherever. So,
can we say what is the cost advantage what your technology brings to the commercial technology?
Yeah, it's the traditional technology, or the legacy technology, is called solvent extraction. We hesitate to get down to exact figures, but I can tell you that, for instance, in the lithium space, we've been talking to various players who have a capex for their metal separation facility of hundreds of millions of dollars, upwards to $500 million. One particular player we were talking to was very pleased because they were able to get that capex down to $350 million, and they thought that was very advanced. We can decrease that again by an order of magnitude, so a quantum leap less in terms of capex. But I should emphasize that our ambition is not really to be selling these facilities. I talked earlier to Michael about the idea of the printer cartridge industry. You get the plant facilities out there, you offer it to the client at a reasonable cost, and where you make your money is through ongoing value added. In our case, the use of the ligands. And we're not selling ligands either. We're selling what the ligands do, which is essentially economic value. So we'll be making our money from a tolling fee, which is essentially like a royalty. So once the facility is installed, be it remotely or centralized, depending on how much volume by weight goes through our facility, we're going to charge a dollar value associated with how much throughput there is. And so it's a very simple model, and our clients at the end of the day can use our process sort of as a percentage of cost of goods sold, so it's easy to calculate what we cost, and at the end of the day we're very confident that we're going to be a lot less expensive than solvent extraction. So I can tell you that we're being inundated right now with requests from around the globe, and not just from the rare earth space, but from a number of different facets of the mining industry, different metals and so forth. So it's an exciting thing, and we're fielding those requests. I can say, and I should say, that we're very myopic right now. We have tunnel vision. What we're after is we're sticking with the plan to prove up our technology for the rare earths immediately. But we should say, and I've mentioned this to others, that when we separate the rare earths, we've separated effectively 20% of the naturally occurring metals on the periodic table. So I think what that points to is that there's an area of metal that, in theory, that we can't separate, that we can't grab. So the sky's the limit. We're not necessarily after precious metals like gold and so forth, for the basic reason that those have been done to death, and there's fairly advanced technologies out there. But we're after technology metals, specialty metals. In the case of scandium, for instance, that's worth upwards to $10,000 a kg. So it's very much worth our while. We have a scandium ligand on the shelf. Lithium, as we know, is going through the roof. We have a lithium ligand on the shelf already. All the IP associated with it, fully developed and vetted. It's ready to go. We just have to dust it off and move with it. So again, the IP that we have, the intellectual property on the shelf, is colossal. And the rare earth is just the tip of the iceberg, and we intend to explore the rest of that iceberg in due course.
Yeah, but the rare earth is a perfect example to prove up the content.
Absolutely. Rare earth is probably one of the more complex separation exercises that you can do. So we started with the hardest separation exercise, and everything else pales in comparison in terms of complexity. So now we're looking at other singular metals. When you talk about rare earths, obviously it's not one metal. No, it's a suite of metals, and it's very complex. But if you go beyond that and you talk about lithium and scandium and so forth, they're singular metals, a great deal less involved processes to separate them. And our technology is, some people frown on this, proprietary, but it absolutely is proprietary in the sense that no one else in the world is deploying this technology. No one else has the knowledge. The company we've hooked up with, IPC, they have decades of experience. So it's not a new technology, it's new applications for an existing technology, which I think is an important distinction.
My last question, you answer a lot of questions in your answer. how the company looks like in 5 years?
It's almost hard to imagine what it can be in 5 years' time. We are expanding very rapidly. Our horizons are expanding very quickly. I look at the hub and spoke model as being absolutely the way to grow, and so it means that it's akin to a licensing arrangement or a franchise arrangement where you don't have to do all of the heavy lifting at the lowest levels. Mm-hmm. So essentially, if you empower a company that's an expert in the lithium space, where management are experts in lithium, and you acquire the right team and so forth, and plant this technology with them, they will have a tremendous advantage in the lithium space that other players in the lithium space will not have. And we're talking about improvements to your capex, decreasing of the capex, and improvements in internal rate of return and so forth that are very, very substantial. So in answer to your question, in 5 years' time, I look at Ucore IBC as being the hub, and we look to have multiple points of reference around that hub, sort of a star-shaped formation. And those points of reference would be demarcated by areas that would be their own standalone metals groups. So in the case of rare earths, obviously that's a group. In the case of lithium, you might want to combine that with cobalt or have cobalt stand its own, because the two of them service the hybrid electric vehicle and in EV space, and so on and so forth around our hub and spoke model. But in answer to your question, Joe, we look to be a multiple point company with subdivisions or franchisees, licensees around our hub, and multiple points of revenue.
Is it also possible that you spin out some of the
Absolutely.
companies so that you are...
Oh, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So like the hub being Ucore IBC, each one of these satellites would be a standalone company. Ucore IBC would have a very significant equity stake in each one of these enterprises, but they would be independently traded and would be standalone entities.
Okay.
The good news about that is you're receiving income from each of these, but you're not absorbing the risk of each individual division. If they flounder for whatever reason, God forbid, you don't get sucked into the void with that. But it gives you a chance to develop these various limbs, if you will, off a tree, and if any limb needs to be severed or gets taken out, you can make tremendous money. If a major comes in and wants to take out the division, our shareholders can avail themselves of that big uptick as well. So it gives us multiple points of reference in the resource space, multiple points of ways and means to make money, and for anybody who's following this space right now, we see the first glimmers, the initial glimmering of the resource markets coming back. So now is the time to position yourself. You see a play that you think has inherent value, and obviously I'm speaking of us, it's a good time to invest, and then you have exposure to the entire upside. So,
Jim, I think it was a great update.
Yeah.
I love the story.
Yeah.
I'm a shareholder, yes,
Yeah.
I must love it. And I love it after this interview more than before. Das war ein Update von Ucore. Die Company ist eigentlich ein Wahnsinn schlechthin. Ich habe es auch letztes Jahr schon gesagt, das Unternehmen hat eine neue Technologie entwickelt, oder nicht eine neue Technologie, die Technologie ist alt, nur andere Sachen haben es genutzt und in anderen Bereichen ist genutzt worden. Und sie nutzen diese Technologie jetzt im Rare-Earth-Bereich, also im seltenen Erden-Bereich, um die seltenen Erden besser zu separieren. Hat den Riesenvorteil, erstens mal, dass sie Gehalte über 99, teilweise 9% erhalten. Zweitens ist, dass die Kosten deutlich niedriger sind, und deswegen war eine meiner Fragen, sieht er überhaupt den Unterschied, ob er jetzt eine Rohstofffirma ist oder noch eine Technologiefirma, und er kommt aus dem Hightech-Bereich, also von daher sieht er sich eher so aus, wahrscheinlich eher aus Technologiefirma, sehe es auch schon mehr aus Technologiefirma als wie Rohstofffirma. Was er sagt, aber diese Technologie kann man nicht nur nutzen für Rare Earth, sondern für verschiedene andere Sachen, unter anderem zum Beispiel Lithium, die ja jetzt momentan auch sehr hot ist bei den ganzen anderen Minengesellschaften, und das macht es eigentlich sehr spannend. Das heißt, er hat auch geredet über die Struktur, wie sie dann auch ausschauen kann, wie schaut die Struktur in 5 Jahren aus, also zum Beispiel Ucore, und darunter sind dann verschiedene Teilbereiche, die dann auch, und das war eine meiner Fragen, separat gelistet sind. Damit nimmt er nicht das Risiko an Bord, aber dafür hat er auch die Vorteile. Man kann dann, wenn ein Major kommt und den Teil haben will, dann kann man den auch schön verkaufen und die Ucore-Aktie Aktionäre profitieren davon. Für mich ist einer der besten Stories am Markt, hat was mit Rohstoffe zu tun, ist aber auch technologiegetrieben und hat alle Vorteile, die eine Technologie braucht, um sich wirklich am Markt durchzusetzen. Die Pilotanlage läuft, jetzt die nächsten 66 Tage wird das dementsprechend die Ergebnisse auch bekannt und von daher ein absolutes Go und ich bin froh, dass ich die Aktie letztes Jahr empfohlen habe, selber gekauft haben. Wir waren zwischenzeitlich einmal deutlich im Minus, aber jetzt sind wir schon wieder deutlich vorne. Das war's von der PDAC und von Ucore.